Hello everyone, and today I'm going to be talking about how to choose your class in Dekaron. Now, I want to start off by saying that I am not an expert at all of these classes in any way, shape, or form. My main is a black wizard, so that's the one I know the most about, but I've played some of the other ones and I've interacted with enough to have an idea of what they're like. Um, when you're starting this game, it's kind of hard to, sometimes it's kind of hard to pick a class. So I just want to talk about like what the classes are actually like in game. So starting off with the Azure Knight. The Azure Knight is, it's been around for a long time, one of the first classes, and it focuses on melee damage. And this can be done with a sword and shield, a two-handed sword, or dual wielding. It's a very fun class. You can get really high damage and pretty good defense as well. The only thing about the Azure Knight that's hard for a starting player is to really make your knight good, you need to pick either sword and shield and two-hand or sword and shield and dual. And so it can be kind of expensive to gear this character when you first start out. Very good character though. Next up, we're going to look at the Dragon Knight. The Dragon Knight is a newer character, just recently came out, and uh, this one is melee damage once again. However, this one is way more tanky. It's actually a pretty good starting character because you only need to make yourself one weapon, which is good. Because if you're with the Azure Knight, you would have to make yourself like four. Um, so very good character, lots of damage. You can look at the little thing in the corner here. You can see it has really high damage, really good defense. I mean, because it's got pretty good support because it has really good buffs with like PK damage tolerance and critical resistance and stuff like that. Very tanky character, but can also deal out a lot of damage. Next up, we have the cicada hunter. This is definitely one of the DPS characters or higher damaged characters. Um, really focuses on having a lot of damage, not having as good of a defense. However, with all these characters, you can get your defense up pretty high, even though you're more of a damage character. But this one is definitely focused more on damage. It's long range attacks. And you can either use a bow or a crossbow, both of which are really good. Next, we have the Incar Magician. Once again, this is a character that really focuses on damage. She has some decent buffs too. She has a spirit buff, and she has a buff that decreases everyone's all attribute resistance, which is really good for dungeons and PvP. Really high damage. This character, the Incar Magician, is really good for dungeons because she gets that really high damage. Some characters don't get as high of damage when you're doing dungeons, and the Incar Magician is definitely a good class for dungeons. Next up, we have the Black Wizard. This is my favorite character and the one I use. Uh, this one has really high attack. Once again, you hit really hard. It's really good in PvP. It has really good PvP skills. It says that the support's high here, but it's really not. You only have one group buff, and it's Spirit. Really good damage. Your defense is not going to be very good, though. I've struggled with defense the entire time playing as this character. But once you get your gear up good and you get enough resistance, you can have decent defense as well. But yeah, definitely more of a damage character. Next up, we have the Vicious Summoner. Probably one of the most balanced classes in the game. You can choose between using a staff or using dual blades or twin blades. I can't remember which is which. The Consoror Summoner uses one, the Summoner uses the other one. This character has some really cool things. First off, high damage, definitely high damage. You can get really high damage, as you can with any class, really. But good damage, either physical attack or magical attack, depending on what you want to do. This class has a really cool thing called chakras, and they're these little nodes you put down, and they buff you and your party. So it's very good for dungeons and for helping out your party members. You also have the ability to summon familiars, which is really fun. I mean, who doesn't like summoning things? Which is cool. So yeah, very good. Consoror Summoner. This one also you could go with physical damage or magic damage, although from what I've seen, the physical damage is much better than the magic damage. So that's what I would say with this one. Summons, once again, This one's kind of fun because, as with the summoner, you can go invisible. Although the invisible ability with the concert summoner is better because you can just keep doing it over and over again. But yeah, another good class. Next up, we have the Signal. This is the support class. You know, if you like playing a healer, the Signal is for you. Your damage is never going to be as good as some of the higher characters, although if you get good enough gear, they can hit really hard as well. They have really low defense. However, they can get a large HP pool, and they have the ability to heal themselves. So they can be really good. And they have party buffs that buff your entire party. They're very useful. Um, Underplayed, honestly, because a lot of people want the really high damaging classes, but signals are extremely important as well. Seg Ripper. I have never seen anyone hit more than a Seg Ripper. These guys with physical damage get ridiculous, hitting so much damage. The trade-off is that they have really low defense. Maybe, possibly even the lowest defense out of all the classes. Pretty low defense. They also have some support capabilities though, like the Signal. They can heal shield, and they have party buffs as well, but not as good as the Signal. But this one's a really high hitter. Now, the Baggy Warrior is the tank class. This class is made for tanking. Very large shield pool, very large HP pool. Lots of buffs that reduce damage. They also have a party buff that reduces damage when you're doing dungeons, which is really useful. And they can get pretty high melee damage as well. They're very good for PvP, probably one of the best PvP classes, just because they can just keep knocking you back, and it can be very frustrating. Very good class. This is the tank, though. Half Baggy is kind of in between the Baggy and like a high damaging class. They can tank really well as well. They can also dish out a lot of physical damage, though. It's a very fun class. This one can be more expensive, though, because you have to make both a Qatar and a Felician, which is more expensive. But a very good class, extremely powerful. I mean, when you get fully geared out, very hard to deal with. And last up is the Alokan. The Alokan is just, in general, a very fun class. You use a spear and a guard arm. The physical damage is really good. They have really good defense. And the support is really good as well because they have party buffs as well. Kind of similar to the Signal, although these function in a different way. Anyway, another really good class. So if you're starting off, my recommendation is to pick a class where you don't have to make more than one weapon. So I would avoid the Azure Knight when starting off, just 'cause, and I'm not saying you can't come back to something like this. I'm just saying that when you start off, it's not easy to make money right away. So you want something that you're going to be able to gear more efficiently. So I would recommend anything that has one weapon that you're going to pick. So you can do the Dragon Knight, one weapon. You can do the Hunter. You can either do a bow or a crossbow. You can do the In-Car Magician or the Wizard. The Summoner, Concert Summoner. I mean, most of these you don't have to do that with. But Signal, Seg Ripper, Baggy, and Alokan. I would just avoid the Azure Knight and the Half Baggy when you start off, just because it's a little bit harder to gear. I'm not saying you can't, because they're both fun classes. I'm just saying that it's not easy to make money when you first start off, especially if you've never played the game before. The easiest classes to play to start off with, the Alokan is a pretty simple class to play. I really recommend that as a starter. The Dragon Knight can be a little bit confusing with the buffs if you don't understand the mechanics of the game, but it's still a good one to start with. If you want something that's just going to be, running dungeons, either the Seg Ripper or the In-Car Magician are going to be great for that. Maybe farming out some money and then maybe supplying a higher defense class. Yeah. I hope this was helpful. Like I said, I'm not an expert. I don't know everything about these, but this kind of gives you an idea, when you're picking your classes at the start. So yeah, I hope this is helpful, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.